Welcome to Class 10 of Project Job Search, Action Plan, Negotiating, and Probation Period. In our last class, we got you ready for your interviews and prepared you to follow them up effectively. Now, let's make sure you know how to hit the sweet spot in negotiations and how to survive the probation period at your new job. When you're in the interviewing stage, you need to put off discussing salary as long as you can. If possible, give them a chance to fall in love with you before mentioning any numbers. In fact, the best time to negotiate your salary and other comp is once you've been verbally offered the job, but before anything has been signed. This is when you'll have the most leverage with your new employer. They've mentally committed to you, and they're probably sick of the searching, vetting, interviewing stage and want to move on. During the interviewing stage, research a typical salary range for the role on sites like salary.com, salaryexpert.com, payscale.com, and check the latest Robert Half salary guide. Factor in your experience level and which part of the country you live in. Plan to ask towards the top of the range, but try to make it more specific than the usual ballpark figure. For example, say $125,250 instead of $125,000. This can subtly give the impression that you've done your homework and may make them less likely to propose a number drastically lower. You'll need to be prepared for questions that can throw you off balance or cause you to inadvertently give away some of your negotiating power, like, "Are we your top choice?" or "Are you considering any other offers?" Always answer honestly. Don't invent other offers in an effort to create a sense of urgency, but prepare in advance so your answer supports you in your demands and doesn't do anything to harm your negotiating power. When you've finally been offered a job, it's easy to get caught up in the relief and euphoria of the moment and not take the time you need to reflect on the comp package you've been offered. But remember this when it happens. When you feel that euphoria is precisely the time to pause and call for a timeout. You need time to come down off the high of receiving that offer so you can think clearly and negotiate with a level head. When the offer comes in, ask for a day or the weekend to think about it. This is a big decision, and though they're probably anxious to get you started, it's perfectly understandable and acceptable to ask for time to carefully consider their offer. Beyond your base salary, remember there are lots of other things you can negotiate for, such as flex time, signing bonus, and office location. Choose one or two aspects of compensation that are most important to you so you can focus on negotiating those. Don't haggle over less important things. Before you respond, it pays to practice the conversation with a friend. Try to anticipate questions and comments your potential employer or boss will likely have and be prepared to respond to them. Before you head into negotiations, know your adversary. Understand the function of the person you're negotiating with. Someone from HR will be very different than your prospective boss, who in turn will be very different from the owner of the company. Figure out where they do and don't have leeway. HR will have the most constraints and least discretion with your requests. A future boss who really wants you on her team will have somewhat more. And of course, the owner of the company will have the most power to give you what you're asking for. Make sure you can justify any demand you make. But when justifying your number, don't use personal reasons like, "My mortgage just increased 3%. Instead, keep selling yourself and focus on the value you bring to the role, your experience, expertise, and skills. After you've taken your day to consider the offer, it will be time for final negotiations. These might take place in person, over the phone, or via email. However this is done, be sure to take notes. These can come in handy later when you ask them to put the final negotiated agreement in writing. To gather courage and perspective prior to negotiating, it might help to pretend you're an outsider advising yourself as to what you're worth and why. As long as you're respectful throughout the process, they should have no reason to resent your efforts at negotiating a better comp package for yourself. Ask the right questions in the right order. They should follow a pattern of easy, easy, tough, easy, tough. This is designed to cushion the blows of the tougher aspects of negotiations. So, start with a couple of easy questions. These should both be clarification questions, not things you're going to negotiate on, like, who would I report to? Or, when does the company begin matching my 401k contributions? Or, does the company have a dental plan? Once you've put them at ease with your first and second questions, it's time to hit them up with the biggie. This third question should be about the thing that's most important to you, your top priority. Is it your base salary, bonus plan, flex time? Ask for what you most want, what you feel is fair to you and to them, aiming a little high so they can come back slightly lower and still meet your requirements. Follow up that tough question with another easy one, then finish up with another tough one. When they've put a number out there, you can use silence to your advantage. Once they've made the initial offer, use nonverbal communication to convey that you're thinking about it. You can say, and furrow your brow, maybe jot down a couple of notes. In this case, they might get nervous and start bolstering their offer by trying to make it seem more attractive to you. When you counter their offer, you can again use the power of silence. State your number, then sit quietly and wait for their response. Job seekers tend to get nervous and try to soften the statement by offering up what they're willing to forego in order to make their number more palatable. Instead, sit tight and don't negotiate against yourself. At the end of your negotiating meeting, ask for the final negotiated package in writing. Check their written recap against the notes you've taken to make sure nothing has been left out or changed from what was agreed upon. There are two main ways to fumble negotiations: under-negotiating or over-negotiating. While negotiating for the highest salary possible might seem like the best goal, it should actually be to end up at a comp package that's fair on both sides. If things lean too much in the company's direction, you'll feel undervalued and resentful. But if they lean too much in your direction, the hiring manager might feel pulled over the table. You can damage goodwill and create superhuman expectations of what you can deliver in the role. You could negotiate yourself higher than the people you report to. If they get wind of this, and they probably will at some point, it can create resentment and make keeping your job all the more difficult. If you tend to over-negotiate, remember, you don't want to negotiate so aggressively that once the number is agreed on, you've created ill will and/or impossible expectations. You want to ask for what you're worth, but avoid creating the impression that you're petty, greedy, or arrogant. Manage your tone and attitude throughout the process, making sure you negotiate with respect. It's important to stay likable through this process. You'll hopefully be working with these people very soon. Also, remember that the newest hire with the highest salary is very likely going to be the first one let go in times of cutbacks. The salary spreadsheet that HR and financial management refer to probably shows base comp, so negotiating other things, especially intangibles like office location or an early review, can have lots of value that won't come back to haunt you when cuts must be made. If you tend to under-negotiate, remember, negotiating is not only acceptable, it's expected. Take courage from the fact that they've offered you this role. Out of all the candidates they've considered, they think your background and expertise make you the best fit for the job. Use the salary guidance we mentioned earlier, and don't talk yourself down to a number you think will be more attractive to them. If you've made it to the probation period, congratulations. You've honed your resume, networked, found the opportunity, written an effective cover letter, interviewed and negotiated successfully, and now you have the job. Seems like you can relax now, right? Unfortunately, until you've made it through your probation period, you'll be the weakest member of the pack and the most vulnerable to being let go. So for the first month, 3 months, 6 months, however long you're in the probation period, you've got to prove that you're not only capable of performing the tasks required, you must also demonstrate that you're a good fit personality-wise with your coworkers. You need to make your new employers feel good about the decision they made to hire you and deliver on the promises you made in negotiations to bring value and effectiveness to the role. This is never easy. You can be dealing with difficulties like resentful coworkers, a boss anxious to prove the hire was justifiable, or working to change a status quo that you can see is outdated or ineffective. In general, you'll need to stay on your best behavior during this time. Don't get lazy in terms of appearance or punctuality. You're in the spotlight during this probation period, so any slip-ups will be noticed. This is not the time to ask for or expect any special treatment like leaving early for a doctor's appointment or taking a personal day off. If at all possible, don't even call in sick during this time. Know the rules. If they've provided an employee handbook or welcome pack, read through it to make sure you know what is expected of all employees. Be generous with your time. The opinion they form of you during this initial time will be very hard to change for better or worse, so make sure it's a good one. After your probation period is over, it'll be much easier to take a morning off or get away with dressing down a bit. If it's part of your responsibilities, make sure you know the lay of the land before you start making big changes. Make sure you have the support of key players and listen carefully to the requests of those who are in a position to fire you. Know their biggest motivators and aim to help them accomplish their departmental goals. One of the most important things to get right during this time is personality fit. Many mistakes can be forgiven if the team likes working with you, so make the effort to get to know them. Take an interest in your coworkers, what they contribute, and help them out when possible. Don't be standoffish, condescending, or aloof. Join in out-of-office activities like after-work drinks, but make sure you don't go overboard with the drinking or do anything that could come back to haunt you the next morning. Ingratiate yourself with your new boss. Check in after the first 2 weeks. Find out what you're doing well, what needs work, and if there's anything coming up that you should be aware of. Make sure you're getting the training you need and that was promised to you. If you're not, meet with your boss and politely offer to work with them to get the training underway. Be polite when asking for clarification or guidance. Make sure it doesn't come across as accusatory or whining. Try to get into the office before your boss and then stay a little later than most of your coworkers. Be upfront with your boss and acknowledge mistakes. Then do what you can to help fix them. Remember that the probation period goes both ways. If the job turns out not to be what you expected, the end of your probation period is the perfect time to either work to rectify that or to walk away with no hard feelings. Well, that's a wrap. You've completed all 10 of the Project Job Search classes. Along the way, we showed you how to hone your marketing tools, build your network, and taught you how to get in front of decision makers. You also learned ways to target hidden jobs and how to create your own position. You now know how to nail your interviews, make the most of negotiations, and how to survive your probation period. You've got your Project Job Search well underway. We wish you the best of luck.